Hello and welcome. We just finished book 1 of the Dandelion Dynasty, The Grace of Kings. This is by Ken Liu. I think I said that right.
I think you did too.
And we got some stuff to say about this. This was something Dakota added on the wheel, and of course we spun it right away. It's a quartet. There are 4 books in the series.
Or as I like to call it, a tetralogy.
Okay, fancy pants. Let's start off by judging this book by its cover. If you can see through the glare, Dakota, how you feeling? How you feeling on this cover?
It's really simple. I think I like it. I think I like the cover even more after reading it. Is it a helmet and a dandelion?
Yeah, it's a dandelion growing through the crack in the helmet.
Yeah, it's really simple. I mean, honestly, it's pretty plain. If I saw this in a bookstore, I probably wouldn't be like, I don't know. The title grabs me. So combined with the plain cover, I probably would be like, what's that about? And I'd look at it. But without the title, if I just saw this cover and I wasn't like, Kings? I feel like I'd be like, not necessarily hooked by it, but it's something wrong with it.
I think this cover shines now that we've read the book. I don't think that judging a book by its cover, I would have picked it up based solely on this. I think it's a little plain for me, like you said. But the symbolism in this is fantastic, and I really enjoy it. And we're going to dive into some of that stuff.
We're going to talk about it.
Right, meow.
Meow. Meow.
All right, so I guess let's just get into this.
Let's just dive down the rabbit hole.
Do it. Let's talk about our characters. There was a 10-page list of characters when we first started this, and I was like, "Wow, I hate you, Dakota. I did not realize we were getting to something this big."
Honestly, I've been telling you for like how long now that I think I was ready to sink my teeth into a big series. So I didn't expect this either, but I'm not mad about it.
I am happy with where we're at. I also didn't want something this heavy, but I'm enjoying it and enjoyed the book. I'm glad we did it.
Me too.
It's a big undertaking, though. I think this is one of those books that we'll get to it eventually, but I think that it's going to be conditionally recommended for reasons we'll get into.
Spoilers.
Talk about our characters.
Or not spoilers.
Talk about our characters.
Sneak peek. Wait till the end. You'll find out why.
A snippet.
Yeah, there was a lot. There were a lot of characters. There was definitely. I gave it a point here. We definitely could have known more of the characters more deeply, but it was a huge cast. But everybody we met was memorable, and it took me a little while. And I think this is my own Americanized brain. It took me a little while to learn the characters because of the Asian themes. I mean, this is essentially like a historical fantasy that's set in like a China-esque kind of world. I saw in one of the reviews after we finished it, I don't remember exactly, but this book mirrors a historical time in China. So it's like a retelling of a like time in historical China. All that to say, the names of the characters were a little hard for me to grasp at first, and it wasn't until the characters started doing things that I remember their names and who they were.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't necessarily the names themselves. It was the fact that there were so many, because the way the story was told was we would get a character, and it would start with the character's origin and talk about like things that were happening. And then the next chapter would be about a character that was a side character in that chapter or that like portion of the telling, and then it would go back in time into their beginning and then where they started, and then it would talk about another character that was introduced in that. So I really like the storytelling in that aspect. And in terms of the characters, I felt like there wasn't any character I wanted more of a background on. I felt like everybody was pretty fleshed out and are set up to, if we see more of them in future books, great. But if not, I felt like they got their screen time.
Yeah. It was a really wide, well fleshed out cast. It was hard to keep up with because there was a lot.
It was tough.
But it was written well. It wasn't tough because it was written poorly. It was tough because it was a lot, and small brain need help understanding all the people and what they were doing.
Well, there were so many, and a lot of the people also had similar names to cities and stuff like that. So in the beginning, I was like, man, I'm really struggling through this. Like I was reading slower so I could like comprehend exactly what was happening.
15% was probably the toughest for me. But then it was like we really started getting a stride with how every character immediately had like a backstory, and I like picked up on that and was able to lean into it more. But
I felt like the first 50% of the book was a lot of random backstories and stuff before we And even like into 75%, we had some new characters that they introduced that we still ended up getting a backstory on, like flashback wise.
Yeah, I think I'll talk about that more in like storyline and pacing, maybe writing style. But yeah, it was we were still meeting people like really late into the book, and it was still handling it as it handled people we met in the very beginning, which was a little jarring at times. But as far as like the way that it was handled for character development, it was great.
Yeah. I liked it. Full point.
Full point. And from there, jumping into originality and creativity, this was unique. I liked it. It was fresh. I wasn't like I gave it a point here. I wasn't no part of this was like, wow, I've been there before. I saw that coming. It was unique.
I don't know, like for me, I gave it the full point. I definitely think it was creative in the way that he used like the gods were there, but they couldn't interfere, so they had to interfere like subtly through like different means. They could
Yeah.
like suggest to they could inhabit a body and like suggest to a character, hey, maybe you should do this, or try and steer them one way or another, but they couldn't physically touch or do anything. And like loopholes the way they got around it. Originality, I mean, it's a war story. I think the way it was told and like the specific story it's or the like realm that it's happening in was original. I don't know if it's like necessarily unique in like the whole battle scenario type situation, but I
Yeah.
still give it the full point. I felt like it was still fresh for what it was, for being a high fantasy. This is the first high fantasy I think we've read in a while. Like a high epic fantasy. I feel like
Yeah. Was
this is almost like Malazan territory when it comes to levels of like scope and characters. I feel like
guess we have to add that to the wheel.
we are not adding Malazan to the wheel. If you value your life, we're not adding Malazan to the wheel, not for a long time. My buddy Kyle's going through it right now, and he goes, "It's good, and I love it, but it's tough." I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah, I
we'll
think we
see."
read too many books to add Mal's onto the wheel, at least right now.
It would have to be the year of Malazan. It would be like a book a month.
Like our year of Sanderson.
Yeah, that was even that was different.
Yeah.
I don't know. Malazan's a beast. We'll see. Not there yet.
One day in the future of RSQ, maybe next year on RSQ, we do one series, we do like a whole year of like the Expanse, or like 6 months Expanse, 6 months Malazan.
God, it doesn't really even sound fun.
It really doesn't. It doesn't sound super pleasant.
It sounds like a chore.
There's too many things we read. I think we just get bored. All right. Anyways,
Engaging storyline. He gave us half point. I enjoyed the story a lot, and I thought that the way it was told was like really compelling in the sense that like I wanted to keep going because I'm like, oh wow, we get to see more of this character, we get to see more of this, blah blah. But I think it loses the half a point for me in the engaging part. I liked it because I liked the story and I liked the characters and I like the way the story was told was why I stood around type thing, but it wasn't very engaging. I felt like it was a little bit read like a history book, and we were kind of going through and we were just going through history. We were watching this as already happened type thing, and I could see how that would turn a lot of people off. But I enjoyed it, but I could definitely like it did lack like the engaging hook. I think there was a lot of sauce and we got lost in the sauce a little bit.
lost in the sauce. Yeah, that was it for me. I think we really lacked a broader understanding. I think we really lacked an understanding of the big picture as like where the story's supposed to go. What's the main problem that we're solving? Because it was like, here's this big world, and I'm writing about the world, really similar to like Dune, and really similar to Sun Eater's Empire of Silence, in the way that like I'm giving you a manuscript about this whole like universe that you're in. I mean, in this, it's on Earth and it's one world. So I'm giving you a manuscript about this whole world that you're in, which was great. I enjoyed it as well for the same reasons you did. I liked being immersed in this world and watching it build. But yeah, I don't. It was really muddy as to understanding like what's the driving force, like where are we going, who was our main character here. At least for a while, I was like, which of these characters is our main character?
Yeah,
Like,
that was tough. I think that the story was good, but like there wasn't like a peak. It was very like a plateaued story. Things were happening, and when the exciting things were happening, we got like a little bit of a spike, but it wasn't like holy shit type thing. There was some
Yeah.
really cool stuff that happened, but it's very subdued. I felt like
I agree.
historical retelling.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, it fits in with, I think, this is like a historical retelling, like a historical fantasy, so that being the case makes the way the story flowed make sense, because like just like reading like a history book, history doesn't have like a main point or like a big picture. So
If
if
I
you
mean
look at
that
it
could
that
be
way,
just the writing style, and that's how he writes,
yeah,
and that just might be it. But I mean, it wasn't meant to be a historical retelling, as
that's
far as I'm
true.
aware.
That's true. It's still meant to be a fantasy. All right. Yeah. So I agree. I gave that a half point as well. And from there, our story end. This is our first place we disagree.
We do disagree here.
Tell me why you gave it a point, and I'll tell you why you shouldn't give it a point.
So our story end here, we got our conclusion. The story is concluded. If it stopped here, we didn't get any more books, I think it'd be fine. Um, I think at first I was disappointed with how Mata just kind of like gave up at the end, but I think it was kind of the point where he was like burning the match at both ends type thing. Like he's just like that was his the way he ruled was just like power, 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 power. And I had texted you and I complained that I wish that it was more of a even like match in my head between Mata and uh Kunai.
Yeah, I think it
I
was
wish that it would
Cooney,
like
but
I wish that I liked them equally like I did in the beginning. Because eventually like they hit a point where there was a misunderstanding between the two and Mata was just like, I'm angry and pissed and I'm just gonna throw shit like a tantrum.
yeah,
But so I didn't like him as much. But I felt like the story ended the way it had to. Because I feel like maybe that's not the way I want to phrase it. The way Mata lost because like in direct parallel to how his dad lost, where it was overwhelming numbers and the skill didn't matter no matter what. And he recognized that. And I think he kind of recognized that as what happened to his dad. And so instead of going out like that, he kind of just ended it. And that was his
yeah.
last redeeming quality. So I think it worked for the characters. I think it was disappointing for us, but I don't think that just because it was disappointing for us doesn't mean it was. I think it did justice to the characters and to the story the way it happened, even though I
I'm
wasn't
gonna I'm
completely
gonna
happy about
latch
it.
on and say also thematically, the way it ended very much matched Mata's worldview, his perspective that like the world is wrong and I want to rebuild this world, and in the end, it's like this is wrong and there's nothing I can do about it. It's the
Yeah, he's
finality
all or
to his
nothing,
character.
and they say multiple times his his worldview is white and black. There
Yeah,
is no gray, and I think that because that's the way it ended.
you make it you make a compelling. It's a very compelling point, and I think this is going to go back to a catabasis review where in the end you were like, do I give it the technical point or do I give it the subjective half point? I think I'm giving it a subjective half point. I don't even know if I'm going to call it that. Let me explain my thought process.
I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm here for you.
Everything you said is really valid, and I think that the way it wraps up is very much on par, very much even keel with the way this whole story is told. And that it's a very, like, there wasn't necessarily a peak. It's like, we get to a point that it plateaus and it just continues and continues until it's done. I liked what happened with the characters. I like how that wrapped up. But for like a fantasy story, I struggled to see like a really like a linear progression of the story structure. And so the end didn't feel any different than like an event that could have happened 75% in, or like between Cooney and like another general. Like the end felt lackluster to me, in that I think I also wasn't connected to like any big problems or any big like issues that the end is wrapping up, other than the like Cooney Mata like head to head. And like, so it wraps that up, but the way that it wraps up, while on par for the way the story is told and Mata's character, it didn't, I don't know, didn't have any pizzazz to me. I put that it felt kind of uninspired, in that it was just like, well, he's surrounded. Seppuku, the end.
I feel like that's kind of the point, though.
So like,
And this whole book didn't have a lot of pizzazz to it, but I feel like because it's written in the way that it kind of feels like we're reading like history as it was type thing.
yeah,
But another point, like I want to bring up too, is I feel like the point isn't necessarily between these two characters. The main characters are technically the gods, and these characters are like, was that the game they were playing, the Kappa or
yeah.
Koopa, whatever?
Mm-hmm.
They're just like the
They're
playthings and
pawns.
how they're interacting at the end. They're like cheersing, like, "Oh, everybody, it worked out," and like, "Oh, we battled hard and it was great," and blah blah blah. Um,
Yeah,
I just feel like I also agree that it didn't like at the end. I didn't feel like a very high emotional anything. I felt like I don't know it like stuff. It just kind of like happened. It was kind of just disappointing, not disappointing, but I was like bummed for Mata. I was like, this is not like how he wanted to go out type thing.
yeah. It's interesting. I think I'm gonna stick to giving it a half point because of the same reasons I gave this engaging storyline a half point. But I enjoy, like I said, I enjoyed this, and I also see why someone wouldn't enjoy it. And the way that it ended is very on par, both thematically and um thematically and structurally for the story. I think that I could, similarly to what you may be doing behind the scenes right now, I think that I could shift my half point. And I thought about this before you did it, but it was unfortunate that you did it because now it's like, looks like I had the idea after you had the idea. I was going to say, I think
You
I'm going
clearly
to,
had it after me.
I, I was going to say, I think I need to give this a half a point either in the end or in the emotional impact. So I'm going to leave it in the end. And now I get to debate you again into why it happened in the emotional impact. Yeah,
Trying to
that's
get
right.
this stupid
I see what
camera
you're
to
doing.
I keep trying to turn that off. I don't know what I'm doing. Like I talk with my hands or whatever, and it's just, oh, you want me to follow you? I'm a mime. I'm a mime ending it all on stream. World building and setting. What are you
Fantastic.
feeling here?
Drop dead gorgeous.
Yeah, I don't think there was any point. Like I did have to reference the map a couple of times. Like I
Yeah.
googled it and pulled it up just because there are so many names. Like I understand what they're saying, but I need to like picture it. But I felt the setting perfect. No issues at all with that. And then I felt like the world building was another one of those. The way the story was told, if you were ever like confused, like, oh, I wonder where that character came from. Usually we got a background like next
Yeah.
or like eventually.
Yeah. The world
There was
building
nothing really, no holes, I felt like.
the world building was top tier. You can tell the author worked really hard. That was that was one of the top things in this book. I think I almost I had an idea, and maybe this is a total tangent. I feel like at the end of each review, we should start doing a favorite category for each of us.
Okay.
I don't actually think this one's my favorite category. Well, we could talk about that at the end. We could do this at the
Well, yeah,
end. But
we'll
anyway,
start it with this one.
this was one of the strongest. This was one of the book's really strong
I felt
points.
like that's why the book was so long too. I felt like like very heavy into the world. Like he enjoyed writing the world so much. He goes, "What if I just like told you everything that was happening?" And you're like, "All right, bet."
Yeah, you have to be someone who's really into that, I think, to enjoy this book specifically. I don't know about the rest of the series, but you have to be someone that's really into that to enjoy this book. And shameless plug, if you are someone who's really into that, you'll also like Dune and you'll also like Sun Eater. I think those are the biggest points in which people fall off both of those series is because the first book is so expositionally heavy on world building.
I haven't read either. I've heard Dune 1 is good. I've heard the other ones are buns. But I've also heard good things. It's just I usually hear book 1 is fantastic and the rest are mixed. Sun Eater, I hear good things. From you, mostly.
But when you hear good and bad things from me, and then you finally read it, and then we talk about it, it turns out we agree on most of the good and bad things.
Do we? I don't know. You loved Catabasis. It was like your favorite book of the year, you said?
And that's crazy. I almost just walked off right now. I was like in Discord, just like hang up, leave the chat. I don't even know how that would happen. Would the recording stop?
I mean, this would just go on forever. This would be our longest episode. Any hoser. Pacing and structure. I think we agree on this one here. Structure, I really didn't have any issues with.
Same.
I liked the way it was told. I think the storytelling was fantastic. We'll get into that writing style, but I think the structure was great. The way it kind of like broke down like the story as it was happening, but through the characters, and he basically developed a character through a whole chapter and told the story through the character's development, which I thought was cool. Pacing was, I don't know, it felt
it's in line with
long.
the same complaints that I had. I think in that it's all like a trifecta to me. The pacing, the engaging storyline, and the story end. It's all kind of like I gave them all a half point because of how big this book felt, and at times it just dragged. Like things were happening, and I was interested in the things that were happening. But if I was like a new reader, or if I was looking for like a light, peppy book that was going to entertain me, it wasn't going to be this book.
I feel like some of that is on the faults of the reader. Like you have to know going into it, like If you see a 650-page book, you're like, "Oh, this is gonna be a light, fun read." You're dumb,
You're in
and
for it.
that's on you.
Yeah.
But I felt like the pacing
Dang.
with this
I
normally you could have a long book and the pacing be fine. I just felt like this one, like it felt like a lot of the same stuff was happening, just like later on with slightly different characters. So that I
yeah.
felt like that part for me made the pacing was like, oh, we had
Yeah.
this battle, we're taking this back for the sixth time. I'm like,
The last 25-30% of it was really heavy on that. It kind of just like after the tipping point, I think with Kuni and Mata, it kind of all felt really redundant. And maybe one could argue that was the point, that they are both like becoming the main two rulers and dividing the world up the way they see fit. And it's mirroring how the first half of the book was, because you had irresponsible rulers who divided the world up the way they saw fit.
there was the symbolism in this book was just
Yeah, it was top
off
tier,
the chain.
which is
We'll I feel like get to that,
yeah.
but
I
just
even with
ridiculous.
everything I just said, I'm still giving it a half point in pacing, while recognizing that a lot of the symbolism was like why the way this book was structured. It's still tough in some areas for the way like a traditional story is told. There we go. That's how
I
I'll
f-
word it.
I feel like this whole series is going to struggle with pacing just because of the storytelling. I love the storytelling, but I feel like because it is a little bit drier, we're going to end up having a pacing issue. But it's just where we're at. I mean, it is what it
It's
is.
just the thing.
We'll see. We could be proven wrong. I heard that this is the slowest of the books.
Yeah,
I don't know how. I don't know how anything else happens. I don't know how there's 3 more books.
that's
I
one of
was
the
telling
real.
Haley,
Yeah,
I was like, it finished and it's like done. What else happens?
yeah.
How is anybody still alive?
Yeah. Are we going to see? I'd have literally no idea where the next few books go. Is it just going to be like focused on the gods and we see like another 200-year time jump and the gods fight over new people, like dividing up the world? Is it going to be Kuni's kids? Like what's happening? Because I have
But
no
also
understanding.
the island that he was secluded on, he alluded to the fact that there's more beyond the island that no one's explored. That he's like heard rumors of people and there's been strange wreckage and blah blah. So I bet you that comes into play too. Like the world opens up and they're like, whoa, we're not just on North America. We have all these other continents.
Yeah, it's definitely a intriguing, because I don't know where it's gonna go. It's like in a book where you have a clear sequel, you're like, I know what's gonna happen next, and this it's like, what's happening?
I wonder if it'll feel like kind of like a new series. Like this book was almost like a prequel to set up everything else that's going to happen in like the main story type thing. Like all this strife and war and fighting and blah, 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 blah sets up the whole series, as opposed to these are our main characters that we'll stick with for 4 books. I got a feeling we won't be seeing these characters for the 4 books. And if we do, then I'll, eat my hat. And I actually wouldn't eat my hat because I like my hat.
Yeah, where's
Reggie's
your
wearing
hat?
it right now.
Hey, there it is.
I wore it today when I was pulling the weeds.
Wholesome. Yeah, pacing. We both give it a half point. I think we fully explained that. On to our next hot button topic. Our next
Hot button. Check it and see.
our next hot category.
Emotional impact. Give us the emotions.
Yeah, this one was
Tell
tough.
us why you're better.
I had a tough time rating this category. I think that ultimately I'm docking my complaints for this category in other places. I think I've already complained about the story, the way the story flowed and kind of plateaued. And I have more to say about this in the writing style. But for the emotional impact, I recognize that we could have sat in the emotions longer, but there was so much going on that I think I'm almost excusing that and saying that like we had a lot of emotional moments that happened, both like Kuni having to be separated from his family multiple times, is why like him almost choosing to like leave his kids behind, losing friends, losing family, his struggles with like losing his brotherhood with Mata were I think that Kuni's emotions were the most explored actually. Kuni and Mata's emotions were probably the ones that were the deepest. Like his struggle at losing his brotherhood with Mata was really like moving, and
It's also the main theme.
yeah, losing that brotherhood, that was moving, and being forced to make decisions as a ruler, this was explored really well. His being forced to make emotional decisions as a ruler that he recognized were like bloody and cruel, and the way that he like sat in those emotions, that was good for me. That was like I really enjoyed like him being in situations where it's like, let your soldiers loot the city, and he's like, I want to be better than that. Like, why do I have to let them go and like plunder and loot the city? And his advisor's like, they're all charged up right now. If you try to stop them, it's gonna all be like a melting pot. But if you let them loot now and then stop them later, you'll be this like benevolent ruler. And his whole like recognition that like being a ruler is making cruel decisions. I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the emotions that we did get while recognizing that some of it was on the nose and could have been a little deeper.
I don't disagree with anything you said. I only gave it a half a point here instead of where was it? Story end. Um, because I just felt like the emotion here, like I felt the characters went through like not they all had like proper emotional turmoil, both happy and sad. And I think that it was shown well on the page. I just don't think it didn't translate to reader very well. And not that it didn't translate to reader very well because it was there and like easily recognizable. I just felt like it was dry. Like we got like a muted version of that because of the storytelling. And I don't know, I fault it for that here, but I'm not going to fault it in the writing style, which kind of seems contradictory. But I enjoyed the
Interesting.
writing style so much that like I'm fine with what happened and where I'm docking those points. I feel okay with it. And
Well, I
that
guess we'll
it's
repeat this conversation in 2 minutes then. Because,
we can repeat it right now. Writing style and prose.
yeah, I really the opposite of what you just said. I mean, I guess not the opposite. The same reason what you said, but from the other side. I chose to dock the half point in writing style and prose and not an emotional impact because I felt like the writing style was really on the nose. I felt like whenever there were problems, it was, and then we solved it. It was like, here's an issue, and then we solved it. Or it was like, here's an issue. What are you going to do about it? This is it. It was like no.
I agree with that. I don't think that was true. I think they came up with, if not clever ways to figure it out, the character died. Like if they didn't figure it out, and like I
Yeah.
don't feel like it was on the nose.
Maybe
I
I'm
felt like
miscommunicating. I don't think that it was. I don't think that it was easy and that there were no stakes. I'm not. I'm not saying that like the problems didn't matter. I'm just saying that the way in which they were written felt like it's the plateau. I don't think that it was like we're building. Solution, problem solved. Moving on. I felt like it was like problem is solved. Problem
you know what
is solved.
you know what I feel because you did the whole like motion or whatever. I feel like so Mata and Kunai's stories. I feel like were happening at the same time, right?
Yeah.
I felt like almost like it was kind of like a helix. Like when Kunai was doing well and Mata went up, or then Mata went down, and then it would go like reverse type thing. So it was kind of like that type thing. I I just kind of wanted to do that, but like on this level, it's like when Kunai would be going up, Mata would be going down, and then they crisscross and meet in the middle. Some sort of like what do you call it? Catalyst would happen that would switch them and then back and forth, but like for
Yeah.
a long time because it was a long book.
Yeah, I think the reason I gave it a half point, and I'm trying to remember some good examples here. I it just felt like there wasn't any gap between the problem and solution in the book, and it was like we've got a problem, and a smart advisor comes in and immediately has a solution. The way that it was just on the nose with it being like the information, like there was no suspense that was written into it. There was no like drawn out like a couple areas like his family he didn't get to see his family right away, but a lot of the war games, not games, it was like actual war, but a lot of the war situations it was like really immediate solutions. The writing and prose, the prose felt really simple to me in that like I enjoyed it and it was digestible, but a lot of the like, and then this happened, and then I'm communicating it really poorly. I'm not insulting the prose, and I'm not saying that it was like not appropriate for the genre. It just felt really like plain. That like it wasn't there wasn't
I was gonna say
much.
what do you want from it? Because I feel like the prose fit exactly what they were trying to convey. Like I don't think there was anything more we needed, and I felt if so you're saying we like didn't get enough time to like work through a problem and stuff. It was already 650 pages. Like this book happened over years, right? So they had a problem and like a day or two would pass, and then the advisor or whatever would be like, hey, or they would call in someone who was like, what was his name, Luan or whatever, the
Yeah,
guy
the
from
genius.
Han. They like call him in and you figure out. I felt like you can't have this long of a book, and it's hard to ask for, it's weird to like ask for more in terms of like, oh, this wasn't fleshed out enough. It's like
Yeah,
it needed to move along.
I think it's the same problem I had with the best way I think I'm going to be able to describe it is that it's the same problem I had with the engaging storyline and story end, in that this book didn't feel super dynamic, in that like it was all really straightforward, and I liked it and I enjoyed
It
it, and the
was.
world building
It
was
was
great,
straightforward.
but it was very straightforward. And I think that's it's probably subjective, that my personal complaint with all three of those categories is that it didn't dynamically like move up and down. It was just really like,
You want high highs and low lows. This is very middle ground.
yeah,
And I do think it's
it's a good
subjective
point.
because I really liked the writing style. I thought, even though it was kind of read like a history book and it was a little dry, the characters I felt like were so interesting. What was happening was interesting that I kind of forgave that a bit. Like, it did lose some of the engaging part for most people, and I think that was my objective part, was I could recognize it's not engaging, but I don't care because I was enjoying it. So I think that's why I gave it the full point. Excuse me.
I agree with you, but I'm still giving it the half point here for my own subjective. I
Yeah.
see what you just said is, I think,
Because
the
you have to
reason,
have two people on the same, you have to have two sides of the coin,
right?
right?
I
We're
think
speaking to the people.
I think what you just said is the reason I'm giving it a half point, because you're like recognizing that even though you enjoyed it, it was it was like dry. I think I'm looking at it. I think I'm just on the other side of the coin. I understand. Like, I enjoyed it, but I'm looking at it and trying to say, like, I don't know. I don't want to call either of us the objective one, because that sounds
No, because we
arrogant.
usually flip flop,
Yeah.
especially depending on the book. But that's why I didn't give it the full point of engaging, because I recognized that it wasn't engaging from an objective standpoint. But the writing style wasn't bad.
Yeah,
It just wasn't what some people would like.
that's
So I
true.
think that's where you're being
That's a
subjective,
good
is you
point.
don't like the writing style.
Yeah, it's a good point. That's tough. I don't even think I didn't like the writing style. I'm just docking half a point for the writing style.
Just for fun,
but
because you just don't want to give a full
I'll
point.
read more of the books. I liked the world. I enjoyed being in it. I'm just saying my personal opinion is that it wasn't very dynamic. His writing style isn't high highs, low lows. It's very much, it's all the same all the way across. And I'm docking half a point for that, because I feel like
All right.
other writers, I don't want to say a good writer, I feel like other writers have more dynamic storytelling, that it varies high up and down as they write. But we've beat that dead horse. It is dead. The horse has been beaten.
That horse is so dead. Like Mata's horse that he chopped his head off
Dang.
at the end.
Oof. Too soon. His horse was best boy. Yeah.
He was a loyal boy.
So I gave it half point. You gave it a 1.
Yep. On that, meaningful themes and depth. This is where the book shined. This book, I don't even know where to start with this
I don't
or
know
where to
either.
end, because there's so much to talk about
We
that I
could
forgot
probably
a lot.
have a whole video on this point. This is probably the most thematically in-depth book we've read this year. I think I'm going to go on a limb and say that.
I wouldn't disagree. I think this is where I feel like the writing
I'm going to pull up some
was
highlights I had.
so good. There was first of all, it's called the Dandelion Dynasty, right? And Kunai is they go into a lot of depth with him and his wife Chia about being a dandelion and dandelions in the beginning. And Mata is a chrysanthemum. And what what those flowers represent. And throughout the whole book, they reference those flowers in different ways, like spreading the seeds of a dandelion and like how that like influences the story. And I feel like one of the biggest things was the whole brothers parallel between Kunai and Mata, as well as you have the two gods. I don't remember their names, like Kiji and Kana, I think, were twins, and at the end they were on separate sides. And there was another like brothers parallel. I can't remember off the top of my head.
And
Rat and Daff. They were
other guy's name
brothers.
starts with Daff, and they actually called Ratho Rat. So Rat and Daff.
Yeah, and like their stories were also running parallel to
Kuni and Mata.
Mata and Kunai.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was interesting how like it's the whole like nature versus nurture there too. Like they grew up the same, and then all of a sudden they put themselves in different environments, and now one of them's killing themselves at the end because they love their leader so much because of the passion. And anybody that follows Mata is like deep in passion because the person that he's like with but not with, I didn't really understand the relationship all that well, but her brother like died for him and was like, Mata is fantastic, he's gonna go places, I would die for him, and he did. And I don't know, I thought that I'll let you talk because I'm just gonna talk in circles. There was so much to talk about.
I could talk forever. I mean, to start where you ended, that Mata's whole theme was like a demigod out of legend. Like he's very much like a Hercules of his age. Like he is a leader of men. People see him and they're like, he can do the impossible. Not necessarily that he's the nicest or like most compassionate, but they look at him and they're like, if he's leading the charge, it's gonna win. I want to follow him. So that was his like whole theme.
And he did.
Whereas like on the flip side, in parallel, in mirror, Kuni's theme was like cleverness and logic and using like his brain to win these fights. And over again, he recognizes like, Mata, I'm not going to beat you in a battle, so I'm not going to fight you one-on-one. But which is crazy because Mata's whole thing about the world is like, everything should be solved by one-on-one combat. And like the strongest
Everything
should
is
rule.
honorable, and this is how we do it.
And Mata looks at like female hobbies as like lesser. Like his love interest in the end is she does needlework.
Embroiderer.
Yeah. And he's like, girl arts. And she's like, now we're both doing the same thing. And he's like, no, how dare you say something like that? And she's like, you change a battlefield with blood and bodies. You change a tapestry with blood and bodies. I change a real life tapestry, actual fabric with a needle, and to the gods, we are the threads and the needle. They're like, she just makes this whole like perspective shift for him, which is crazy. And that's like a theme I could talk on for hours. But I highlighted a few things in the book that I'll read. One of them is like at the end of right when Naman, and I don't know if this is Marana or Marana, are
I called them marinara.
Right when they're losing and they recognize that they've lost to Kuni and Mata before Kuni and Mata are on opposite sides. They're like, but we live at the who says this? Okay, Naman says this to Marinara. He says, we live at the mercy of the gods. The race goes not always to the swift, nor the battle always to the strong. We have fought as well as we were able, and the rest is mere chance. Which is literally how Mata's story ends. Mata is like his whole.
And I was gonna say, and that's the whole thing, because the very first story we hear from Mata and his storyline is his dad was like the strongest person ever, could defeat anybody, and lost to sheer numbers at the end. Someone was more clever, got him trapped, and killed him. No, like just because of sheer numbers. There was nothing he could do. There were so many different like parallels like that to where, and that's why I think the writing style was so good. It's water. Because things that he would reference at the beginning of a character story or in the beginning of the book always came full circle. Always some sort of like little, I don't know, clip or whatever you want to call it, quote from some sort of something that the characters reference always made full circle, some sort of philosophy.
And then I think this is real. I don't want to call myself incredible. I don't want to say that I'm anything special here, but I think that I made like 3 highlights, and I think that 2 of them are perfectly sum up Kunai's story and Mata's story. So I read you the one that sums up Mata's story. Here's the one I have that I think sums up Kunai's story. He's talking to Luan. Luan, I think it's the genius. I don't know necessarily how to pronounce any of these names.
Luan.
But he's talking to Luan, and Luan's like, have we done anything? Like, are you going to do any better than the last emperor? Like, he's like, is this all futile? Where are we going here? And Kunai's like, I don't know how to answer you. I've always told myself I love the people, but how can I speak of love when I can't even raise my own children? I've always told myself I'm a compassionate lord, but how can I speak of compassion when I've killed so many and betrayed so many others? I cannot say that I'm a good man, only that I'm a man who tried to do good. I like to believe that people will remember me fondly, but I also know that the legacies of men cannot be foreseen during their lifetimes. I do not know if I'm the man who will complete the task you dream of, for that is a question that must be asked of our descendants in 1,000 years.
And I think part of that quote was a big driving factor for a lot of what these characters did, in the sense that they were so concerned about how future generations in history would see them that they did things out of character. So like, I'm trying to think of an example, because Kunai like lived by like a certain, I guess, code, and then his advisors would tell him to do something that he wouldn't agree with, like when he took over Pan, and his advisors were like, listen, you got to let the soldiers loot like for 10 days and then stop them. And he goes, I don't want to do that. Like they're going to destroy things and hurt people and steal their shit. And they're like, you just got to let him do it. It ended up being the smart move, but he normally would not have done that type thing. But he did it to, one, ensure his current and future reign. And then it really affects how like the future generations will see him. And they even see it at the end of the book when Kunai's at Mata's funeral in his eulogy. And he's like, the future generations, I don't know what they're going to say about you, and I don't know what they're going to say about me and who was right. I may have won, but a couple generations down the line, they may see you as like, you know, the victor or whatever they ended up saying. Can't stop coughing. I apologize.
Yeah, I was trying to find the.
But yeah, the themes were heavy as shit, and I loved it.
Same. It was incredible. We could talk for. We could do a video just on the themes. I mean, I wrote down that there's so much talk about war, about respecting people, so many different themes about like what makes this ruler better than the last ruler. Like, do they care for us any more or less than the other one? Is this just like a game?
The common man always suffers, and the nobles get the prizes.
Generations repeating bloodshed, emperors having noble goals but getting lost in the sauce. Do the ends justify the means? That was like a big thing for Kunai, because that was his whole like internal dilemma. It was I'd give this book 10 points on themes alone.
Oh, I totally agree. One of the things I highlighted was it said, one day while up the latrine, Poe observed that rats in the latrine were thin and sickly. He remembered that the rats he had observed in the granary earlier were fat and lively. Man's circumstances are not determined by his talents, Krupa thought, but by where he chooses to put his talents to work. Anna is strong, Porkrow is weak, only a fool goes down with the sinking ship. And I thought that was interesting just because of the fact that he recognizes like it really doesn't matter how talented you are, because your talents mean nothing if you're in a pile of shit. Like if you're not in the right area, it doesn't matter what your talents are doing, and that's Jin's whole thing.
Yep, that's what I was just about to say. Jin didn't do anything before Kuni gave her the position of marshal, because nobody else, she wasn't in a place to use her talents. No one else would trust her.
Good on her for not betraying Kunai like 3 times. She was tested like 3 times.
Yeah.
And if she would have betrayed him,
I probably
would have been annoyed.
Shit.
I would have been annoyed story-wise because of how many times it happened.
Yeah, there were so many. The miscommunication trope would have gone too far if she betrayed him.
It kind of makes sense in this, like,
hindsight.
Sometimes it's like,
it was a little frustrating
through word of mouth. But between Mata and Kunai at the whole like, oh, I killed the emperor type thing, and you weren't here, you were here first, and you didn't tell me, and you blocked me out, blah blah. A very simple like 3-sentence explanation could have stopped that, and I felt like that was a little weak part of the story, which was funny because that was a linchpin for everything that happened for the whole story.
I'm gonna hit you with something even deeper. Do you have an understanding of shame honor culture? Do you know what that means when I say that?
Of what?
Shame honor culture.
I would love for you to explain for our viewers.
It's not something that we understand in the West. It's a Eastern mindset, and it's the kind of it's Eastern, and it still lives kind of today. I don't know enough about the current state of Eastern locations to say it's truly dead or alive, but it's the idea that like a son has shamed his family, and so like the father is going to kill himself. He's like, my son has brought me so much shame, I'm going to kill myself. Or the idea that like it's the way that shame and honor so intrinsically drives people to act and to live and to make decisions. And I think that from a westernized perspective, we inherently can't understand and agree with, because it just seems dumb to us. We're like, that's just a miscommunication. Have some emotional maturity and talk to him. Don't like immediately fly off the handle. But the whole, like, as soon as their brotherhood fractures, it's irreparable from the perspective of like a shame honor culture, because neither of them will lose their honor and embrace shame to reforge their brotherhood. Even though Kunai tries a couple of times to make like to prostrate himself, it's still like Mata can't. If in any way he elevates Kunai back up, he's like accepting shame and choosing to dishonor himself. And it's like see, do you understand? I probably would have to Google it to explain it better.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
But it's the way that it's the same idea that like a samurai who falls in battle commits seppuku. He's like, I have brought dishonor, and
that's happened multiple times in this book.
Yeah, instead of being shamed, I'll see my own end rather than let someone else end me, or rather than go on. And so that's I think that's a really big driving force. And I think it explains some of the points that were like, that's just immature. They could have just communicated. Because I agree with you. And I think that was like really frustrating. But more what I was going to say was along the lines of like, if Jin had betrayed him, I would have more been frustrated that like these gods who can't get involved are just around making everybody betray everybody.
Yeah.
Because it was like a lot of the gods like poking people like, betray him, go do it, betray him. And I was like, listen, you can't get involved and you're all like so putting seeds of doubt into every ruler. Miss me with that.
I was fine with that. I really hated when the one god, I think it was Tano or something like that, he's just like, oh, I indirectly became a tornado and killed 30,000 people. I was like, this is the dumbest shit ever. I don't know how really allowing this, but it is everything's. I'm reading a note on pronunciation. It says, and they say this a lot in the book. It's from like Chinese culture, but it's classic Ano.
Yeah,
because a lot of the language and stuff. But I know a lot of it is, like you said, it's very. I mean, he is Chinese. So he just derives a lot of that from that story or from his culture. And there's a couple of poems that he uses kind of like a base too.
I have
that was interesting.
A bumper sticker nutshell summary to read you.
I wish you'd nutshell on my bumper sticker.
Moment of silence for how good that joke was.
Anyway,
shame honor culture is a way of organizing society where the main motivator for behavior isn't guilt over breaking rules like in Western culture. We have a guilt culture. Like, you did something wrong, you should feel bad. You did something good, you should feel good. But the desire to maintain honor and avoid shame. In these cultures, honor is social standing. Your value comes from how your community views you. Shame equals loss of face. Doing something wrong brings disgrace not just on you, but on your family or group. And restoration is often through regaining honor publicly, not just privately. So the key idea being people act rightly to preserve honor and avoid shame in the eyes of others, not primarily out of individual conscience. So that
a lot of it is public. Yeah, which is interesting too. It doesn't matter like if you have some like heart to heart and you figure your shit out in private, like you have to do it in public.
Yeah, that was a huge theme in this book. The like how Kunai felt didn't matter. He felt sad. He wanted his brotherhood with Mata to be restored. He felt bad for how these people were being treated. He felt bad having to commit like acts of war and like atrocities and cruelties. But like publicly, the public honor he had.
I felt like Kunai felt more. This isn't the right terminology at all, but I'm just gonna say it just for the sake of like comprehension wise. He felt more Americanized in the way like his thought process worked. He's like, I just don't want to be a dick and like be mean to all these families and everything. Like, I'm just gonna be a good person. And Mata seemed very like cut and dry, honor shame, nobles are good, peasants are shit type thing. Like very hierarchy,
yeah, very black and white.
Like it. The contrast was, I felt like it for how middle ground the book was in terms of like riding the wave type thing. I felt like the main two characters are very polarizing in their thought process.
Is another parallel because in the very beginning, the first thing Mata comments on about the original emperor that everyone hated is how he's bad because he's breaking the created structure of the world, that he's elevating people who don't deserve to be elevated, that he's taking the lowlies and making them high, and that's breaking the structure of the world, and that's why he's wrong and deserves to die, which is what Kunai's reign is in the end. He's taking anybody who is emotionally deserving and making them, or internally deserving and making them outwardly wealthy. He's taking the internally wealthy and making them outwardly wealthy. I got there in the end.
You did it.
Anyways,
No,
if
I
you
don't
couldn't tell
disagree.
from the last 15 minutes of this video, we liked the themes a lot and gave it a point each.
Oh yeah, I forgot we were talking about the book. And
Forgot that
not
that's what we
just-
were doing.
I forgot that's what we were doing. No, I absolutely really enjoyed this. And also, this is just a random side note. The book cover that we talked about, there is a alternate book cover. I'm not able to pull it up right now. That I will be buying for the set that looks really cool. I said I'm not able to pull it up. I'm absolutely able to pull it up, and I will shortly. While Dakota talks about rereadability, and I struggle on that in every video. One of these days, I'm not gonna mush that word. Rereadability and lasting impact.
Reread an impact. Reread a best.
Reread the impact.
Yeah, I mean, I give it a point. I mean, our perspective of this point has changed and grown a lot over the course of our
It really has
5 months of doing this so far. And I think where we have landed is it's like, I want to continue to be in the world. So that's the rereadability. Like, I want to read more. I'm going to read the next books. And the lasting impact
because
is
we're
like,
not typically rereaders,
right.
so I think that's important.
And the lasting impact, yeah, I mean, the themes are incredible. This book did so many things that stood out that I'm gonna I'm gonna stand by what I said. There's 2.5 months left there's 2 months left in this year, but I think that this is gonna be this thematically the strongest book that I read all year. Unless the more in this series are even more thematically deep. Like, I think this is the thematically the strongest book I've read all year. The themes were like they were so many. There was insane.
So we've read let's see. At least because I know you've read more. I've read 60 books this year, not including this one, so 61. And I would completely agree that, like, theme-wise, this one's a dripping in themes. And I think that we're not going to find something unless book 2 tops it.
Yeah.
We're not going to find a different series that tops it. This is the other cover. You're not going to see it well. Oh, wait.
Oh, is that the one with the box set?
Yeah, hold on.
You know, I can just put it on the screen.
Put it on the screen. Show the people. I think if I saw this, I'd be a little bit more apt to pick it up. It's still not. It doesn't blow me away, but I do really enjoy it. Well, I like more colors. I think it's a pretty picture.
The broken binding set is beautiful.
Shut your face. They're expensive. I don't want to see them.
I'm gonna have to put that on the screen too.
All right. So Dakota's gonna put it right here. He's gonna put it right in here.
I'm gonna put it
just for editing purposes.
To the right.
He's gonna end up putting it like right here. Anyway, I also go to full point. Lasting impact, I think, just because I don't know, I wasn't happy going into reading this because I knew it was such a heavy series, and I didn't think I would like it because I wasn't in the mood for this. And I'm more of a mood reader. I think everyone's a mood reader, and I think if you say that you're not, you're lying. I just really do think you have to be in a certain headspace. You have to be in a certain point in your life to read certain things. And I think you're a liar if you say that your mood doesn't affect what you're reading. And I think that this busted me out of the mood I didn't think I was in. What?
There's
What
a
do you need?
show on
Oh my
Amazon
God.
that I discovered when I was in California. Dang. There's a show that I discovered when I was reading Rise of the Infected in May when I was traveling this summer, and I binged in like a day and a half. And this author wrote the stories that inspired the show.
Where are you getting this information from?
Welcome to the rabbit hole. I looked up Broken Binding, Dandelion Dynasty, and then I noticed that he also wrote All That We See or Seem, which is another book that someone had recommended me on one of our socials recently. And I was like, oh, cool. I scrolled down like a tiny bit more and saw the picture of that show. And he's like, The Hidden Girl and Other Stories is a Kindle monthly reel. These are the stories that form the basis of Pantheon, now available on Netflix. And I was like, what?
Wow.
My mind just exploded. I'm sorry that I derailed the whole video, but this guy, apparently I already liked his stuff before we read this book.
So you're a cheater.
Peter Pumpkin Eater.
Peter Poopkin Eater. All right, so now we are at the point where we're going to give an official rating. I gave this an 8.5. Dakota gave it an 8, which leaves us at what, Dakota, the mathematician of the group?
8.24. 8.26.
Yeah, you're right. 8.25 out of 10. That's a pretty high score. I felt like in my head, I'm happy with the score. I feel like it was a slow book, but it was one of those that it was like it felt purposefully slow, so I didn't mind as much. So it felt like we were gonna knock some more points off than we did. Because there's a difference between being purposefully slow and just slow because you don't know how to write.
Yeah, it was one of those books that I was worried my rating was going to come out lower than I felt like it was, and I was going to be like, "But I liked this book. Why did I give it what I gave it?" But
Yeah,
I'm
agreed.
happy. I'm happy where it landed because it was what it did well. It did insanely well. The complaints I think are subjective complaints, which ties us right into our if we would recommend this.
Oh yeah, conditionally. I think if you are ready for a in-depth high epic fantasy, this will be a book for you. If you are going into a book thinking that it's just going to be a casual weekend read, you'll be sad. If you go into it thinking it's going to be some sort of peak craziness, people are flying around on dragons chopping heads off, and it's just not that book. This is a it almost feels like it should be a historical war
History book.
history book, but like it's done super well. It's just I feel like this is going to be a mood read for a lot of people. I would recommend this to our high fantasy lovers and people who are into things like you said, Last Sun Eater, Malazan for sure, and like things of that nature. If you're
Yeah,
into
if
those,
you're
you're
not
gonna love
afraid
this.
to really sink your teeth into a long, big, if you look at tomes, if you
A
look at
long,
if you
big,
look at 600, 800, 900, 1200 page books and you're like, I'm your guy, then yes, this is a book for you or gal. But if you're like, that book is insane, and if it's not going to be like interesting, I'm going to drop it, then this is not going to be the book for you.
yeah, like Dakota said, if you like them big and thick and long, then this is perfect for you.
But not juicy, dry.
It is a little dry. You're gonna need some
Big, thick, long,
mental
and dry.
lubrication. Yeah,
I will say
8.25.
something minorly offensive.
You're going to?
I think this is how R.F. Kuang wants to write. I think she wants her themes and her points to be so like intricate like they are in this book, and they're not. Nearly, like I said, minorly offensive. It's not apples to apples. It's a different writer with different styles. But I think that like she wants her themes and her points to come across like they do in this book, and he knocks it out of the park. Which is like, if you want to go back to our last video and rehash up our complaints, like this book's insane. It's long and it's dry, but this book is so good. His themes are insane.
Go look at our other video and let us know what you think. But I do think it's different because I feel like
am I just looking for a reason
I don't want
to
to
complain?
rehash Catabasis. I'm gonna get mad again. I'm gonna get mad again. I'm already like amped up, like getting ready to get angry.
Am I just looking for a reason to complain? Perhaps. But also, I'm elevating this author. He's really good.
I'm not even dignifying that. I'll let you have that. Whatever. Yeah, this is Dakota's thing. Let him feel. Anyway, so we overall recommend conditionally, but we recommend 8.25 out of 10 on the RSQ scale. And our favorite category. What was our favorite category from this? I think we're both going to say themes and depth. I don't think this is a tough one to start on. I think this one, it's there. I don't know what else to say. I clapped really loud and I could hear it in the baby monitor from picking it up from the other room.
What have you done? You're like, is she still asleep? Yeah, we're good. We're vibing.
She's been squeaking and squawking all night. I keep looking over and then I look over and she's asleep. So I think I'm hearing things. Am I going crazy? Yes. But that about tears it. Thanks for watching. We had a great time talking about this book, and we hope you have a great time reading it because of our recommendation. If you ended up reading this book because of a recommendation, let us know. If you hated it, let us know. If you loved it, let us know. And we're going to be diving into book 2 shortly. And we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. We love you all. RSQ out.
RSQ out.